Howdy folks. What we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to take what we learned in the last lesson about these 5 curves that represent a particular company or an industry. And in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to read and analyze the graph so that you can learn how companies can make decisions about the situation that they're in. Now, in order to be able to do that, what I want you to do right now is I want you to review what you learned in the last lesson. You'll note that I did not label any of these 5 curves, but I did color code them for you so that you can see them better. Now, what I'd like you to do is maybe pause the video and then try and identify what the names of these 5 curves are. All right, so let's review what we learned last time. This black one, this downward sloping black one, which is a relationship between not just dollars, but price and quantity, that is the demand curve. So we're gonna call that D. This downward sloping red one, if you'll recall, is related to the demand curve, and we call that the marginal revenue curve. Okay? This upward sloping blue one here, that is the marginal cost curve, or MC. And then these 2 curves that kind of slope down, and then they hit a minimum right where they intersect with marginal cost, those are both the 2 of the average cost curves, right? And recall that average variable cost is always the lower one, and average total cost is always the higher one. So this purple one here, that is average total cost, ATC. And this green one here, that is average variable cost. So that's AVC. I want to point out, in case you don't remember from the last lesson, remember that average total cost, in addition to being above average variable cost, is a larger distance from average variable cost at lower quantities. But as quantities get larger and larger, average variable cost and average total cost get closer and closer and closer together. And the reason for that is because the difference between average total cost and average variable cost is average fixed cost. And because average fixed cost gets smaller and smaller and smaller as we approach larger and larger quantities, that's why the difference between average total cost and average variable cost is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as quantities increase. Okay, so here's what I want to try and help you understand. If we look down here at the axes, at the quantity axis, you can see that we're counting up by 100s. So this is a quantity. This first line is a quantity of 100, then 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, 1,000, etc. On the vertical axis, the dollar axis, we're counting up by $10 at a time, right? So we got $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, etc. dollars, okay? And the first thing that I want to be able to teach you how to do here is how to identify the dollars given a quantity for any one of these curves. And basically all you're really doing is something that you should already know how to do in math, and that is read a graph. Given an input, try to determine the output. So for example, what would the price be at a quantity of 900? Well, the way we find the price, because the demand curve is a relationship between quantity and price. In order to find the price, so the job of the demand curve is to tell you the price when you pick a quantity. So I'm going to write that down up here. The demand curve tells you price for any given quantity. Okay, so for any given Q. So if we go to 900 here, what we're going to do is we're going to go follow 900 vertically up to the demand curve, and it's going to hit right there. And then we have to go over and find the dollars, find the y coordinate. And if we go over here, That's right here. So this is 50, 60, 70, 80. So this point right here has a quantity of 900 and a price, what did we say, 50, 60, 70, of 80. A price of 80. And so at a quantity of 900, we have a price of $80. All right? That is the job of the demand curve. And you can do the same thing all along the demand curve. Okay, so here, if we were to go to a quantity of 300, we could go all the way up to here, and it's just above this line here. So this line is, say, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110. That's about 100, maybe 102 or $103 would be the price at a quantity of 300. All right, so that's how we read, that's how we identify the price. Now, how about the marginal revenue curve? Well, the marginal revenue curve just tells you the marginal revenue. All right, so the marginal revenue curve tells you the marginal revenue for any given quantity. Same thing with so here we go. So if we had at a quantity of 800, marginal revenue would be 10, 20, 30, somewhere between 30 and 40. Looks like maybe about 38. Okay. Same thing with the marginal cost curve. The marginal cost curve simply tells you the marginal cost for any given quantity. Okay? So let's say we pick a quantity of 500. 500, we go up 10, 20, 30, maybe marginal cost is about $32 for marginal cost at 500. But if we went up to a quantity of 600, you could see 10, 20, 30, 40, about 41 or 42. We can see that marginal cost is increasing. And then it's the same thing for average total cost and average variable cost. The average variable cost curve, AVC curve, guess what that tells you? That tells you the average variable cost at any given quantity. All right? And so what's the average variable cost at a quantity of, let's say, 600? So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. So if we go up here, there's the average variable cost curve. So 10, 20, 30. Average variable cost is about 37 or 38 at a quantity of 600. Okay, so that's all that curve tells you. And then, of course, the average total cost tells you the exact same thing, only for average total cost. Average total cost curve, what does that tell you? Well, that tells you the average total cost at any given quantity. Okay, and so tell me, what is the average total cost at a quantity of 1,300? Well, this is 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, maybe about $82 or $83 is the average total cost. That's the total cost per unit at a quantity of 1,300. Okay? All right, so that's how you read the graph. And so there is one more thing that I want to tell you. There's something that's not on here, and you might say, well, hey, how would I get average fixed cost? Well, that's easy. You can get average fixed cost. Let's use this one right here. You can find average fixed cost for any quantity by, very simply, finding average total cost and average variable cost and then subtracting. And so let's say we wanted to know the average fixed cost at a quantity of 900. So first we would find the average total cost, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe 67. All right, so 67 minus, what were we at, 900? Now we need the average variable cost, so 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 48. So minus 48. And so 67 minus 48, that is 19. And so $19 per unit is the average fixed cost at 900 because all we had to do was subtract the difference between average total cost and average variable cost. All right, so now what I want you to do is we're going to look at a few examples of different sets of graphs for different companies and different situations that these companies are in. And I want you to identify these 6 values: price, marginal revenue, marginal cost, average variable cost, average total cost, and average fixed cost for some given quantity that I am going to give you. Okay, so this one right here, the one that we've been working on so far, I would like for you to identify these 6 values at a quantity of 500. Now, you can pause the video and do that, and in just a second, I'm going to identify those 6 values as well. All right, so quantity of 500. So here we have 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. And the first thing we want to know is the price. And so if we go up here, we find the price from the demand curve. So we're going to go up to the demand curve right here from 500, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And that's about 102 maybe. If you said 101 or 103 or whatever, that's fine. So I'm going to say 102 price. Okay, so it's a price of $102. Now we're going to identify the marginal revenue at 500. So we're going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. That's maybe 72. So the marginal revenue is about $72. All right. Now let's identify the marginal cost at 500. And we're going to go 10, 20, 30. That's maybe about 33, let's say. So marginal revenue, or marginal cost, sorry, of $33. All right, now let's identify average variable cost. So we're going to a quantity of 500. So we're going to go 10, 20, 30, and it's almost 40 there. So let's say maybe 38 or 39. I'm going to say 38. So average variable cost is 38. Now let's identify the average total cost. So at 500, we're going to go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, little more than 80 there. Let's say 82. Go, whoops, say 82. And now lastly, we need to identify the average fixed cost. And even though there is no average fixed cost curve, we know that average fixed cost is the difference between average total cost and average variable cost. So all we have to do is do the 82 minus the 38, and 82 minus 38 is going to be 44. So at this particular, at a quantity of 500, average fixed cost is going to be $44. Okay, and this is how you look at a market graph or a set of market graphs, or industry market structure graphs is usually what I call it. And you're able to, for any one quantity, able to identify these 6 important values for a company. Let's try another example now. All right, let's see what you can do with this one. Why don't you identify these 5 quantities at a, let's go with a, well, let's look at what we have here. Our quantities are going up by 50 at a time. So we've got 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, etc. Our dollars are going up by $7 at a time. So this is $7, $14, 21, then it would be 28, and 35, etc. So be careful about that. Make sure you get your numbers right. And I want you to identify all of these values, let's say at a quantity of 400. Quantity of 400. Go. All right, so 400 is going to be right here. This is a quantity of 400. And so if we first want to identify the price, we're going to go all the way up to the demand curve and right here. So it's 7, then 14, then 21. I'm going to count them up and multiply by 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 7 is 42. Then we're a little more than halfway to the next 7, so I'm going to add 4 more. 42 plus 4 is going to be right about here. 42 plus 4 is about $46. So let's say that the price, oops, that's a 46. So the price is 46. And then at 400, let's go to marginal revenue. We're going to be at 21, maybe just above 21, so that's going to be 22. So marginal revenue is about $22, okay? And then we're going to do the marginal cost, which is all the way up here. So 400, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About halfway between 8 and 9, but not quite halfway. So 8 times 7, that's 56, plus let's say 3. So marginal cost is probably about $59, marginal cost. And then let's see, let's identify the average total cost is, it looks like it's actually about the same. It is. Yeah, look. That's right about where marginal cost is equal to average total cost. Look, it's the low point of the average total cost curve. Remember, marginal cost cuts through average total cost at its minimum point. So average total cost is also going to be $59. 59. Now we need average variable cost. So on that same quantity, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 7 is 42. And then we're going to go up maybe $2 more. So maybe about $44. So average variable cost is right there. Average variable cost is about $42, okay? All right, now all we have left to identify is average fixed cost. And remember that average fixed cost is average total cost minus average variable cost. So it's going to be this distance between here and here. That stretch right there is going to be the average fixed cost, and that's 59 minus 42, and 59 minus 42 is 17. So average fixed cost is going to be $17, okay? All right, now let's go on to another example. I want you to try this just a couple more times. All right, so here's another example. We've got our marginal revenue curve here. We've got our demand curve here. There's our marginal cost curve in blue. We've got our average variable cost curve and our average total cost curve. And you can see here that our scale on quantity is going up by 200. So we've got 200, 400, 600, 800, 1,000, et cetera, et cetera. And then on our dollars, on our vertical axis, we're going up by $5. So $5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, et cetera, okay? So here's what I would like for you to do. I'd like for you to identify the price, the marginal revenue, marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost, and average fixed cost at a quantity of 2,000, okay? So go ahead and pause the video. All right, so let's find where 2,000 is. So here's 600, 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, 1,600, 1,800, 2,000. So this is a quantity of 2,000. And first we want to identify the price. So we're going to go up here. We're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And that's probably about maybe $33 or $34, maybe even $33.50, okay? So I'm going to throw on here, let's say, I'm going to put it over here, kind of right there. So the price is about $33.50, all right, price. Now let's identify the marginal revenue. Okay, well, that's this red curve right here, so 5, 10, it's probably about $13. That's probably right about here. So marginal revenue is about $13, okay? Now let's identify the marginal cost, which is the blue curve, 5, 10, 15, 20. That's maybe about, also about $23. So this over here, we'll put $23. That's going to be the marginal cost. And now we're going to identify the average variable cost, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. That's about 33 maybe. So $33. That's going to be average variable cost. Average total cost, we're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, maybe $2 more. So that's about $47. Is that right? No, wait, did I get that right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Oh, I got average variable cost wrong. Sorry about that. 5, 10, 15, 20. I also got marginal cost wrong. No, that's right. 25, 30. 35, that's 38. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, you're like, Mr. Ryan is wrong. Yep, I'm wrong a lot, okay? So let's go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, plus a couple more, let's say 47. So $47 is going to be our average total cost. And of course, average fixed cost is the difference between average total cost and average variable cost. So 47 minus 38 is $9. And so average fixed cost is going to be $9. Okay? All right. Let's move on to maybe just one more example. All right, here's just one more example. Here's your graph. Let's see. We've got, I want to make this one really simple. We're going up by $1 at a time on dollars. We're going up by 10 units at a time on quantity. And so, I don't know, let's say, how about at about 100? Let's go to 100. At a quantity of 100, identify the 6 values that you need. Identify the price, marginal revenue, marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost, and average fixed cost. Pause the video and go. All right, so we're going up to 100. So 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Okay, so that's right here, 100 units. And so the price, we would have to go up to the demand curve. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's just about $8. Let's go ahead and say it's $8. It's a little tiny bit below, but we'll say the price is going to be $8 in this particular case at a quantity of 100. Marginal revenue is way down here. It's just over $1. So let's say about $1, maybe $1.10. $1.10, okay, is the marginal revenue. Marginal cost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about $11 for marginal cost at 100 units. Average total cost, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere between 7 and 8. Let's say maybe $7.75. I don't know. We'll say that's the average total cost. Average variable cost is the green curve. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere between 6 and 7. So let's say maybe $6.75 is the average variable cost. And of course, average fixed cost is going to be average total cost minus average variable cost. So $7.75 minus $6.75, that's going to be average fixed cost is $1. Okay? All right. Well, now let's move on to our next segment of this lesson. Now that you know how to read the graph and how to identify the quantities, now we're going to move on to how a business can use this structure of graphs to make important decisions to make their business the best business that it can be.